Hello and welcome to Level Up for Growth. This is a panel discussion taking your tech from idea to impact. And on behalf of our president, Ron Busby Sr., our board, our chambers, and our staff, I want to thank you for attending. I'm Philip W. Dunn, Program Manager with U.S. Black Chambers, Inc., affectionately known as the national voice of Black businesses. And we represent over 140 Black chambers of commerce and small businesses across the nation. And we're founded on 5 pillars of service: advocacy, access to capital, contracting, entrepreneurial training, and chamber development. Now, this webinar was crafted in collaboration with our chambers of commerce, providing technical assistance and resources to businesses across the United States with the U.S. Small Business Administration's Community Navigator Pilot Program. Now, we want to thank you for your assistance in developing and sharing this program. Now, our team at USBC, as well as our 20 Navigator chambers, look forward to being a resource to you and to your business as you navigate through this journey. Today, we welcome a special forum with leaders of the Department of Homeland Security Science and Technology Directorate. They will provide ways to use DHS's S&T's innovation programs for entrepreneurial innovation and funding opportunities. Our distinguished panel of speakers includes Megan Mahle with the Department of Homeland Security Science and Technology's Office of Industry Partnerships, where she is the director; Melissa O, who's the Department of Homeland Security's S&T Silicon Valley Innovation Program Managing Director; Dusty Lane, who's the Department of Homeland Security Small Business Innovation Research Outreach Manager; and Dee Parker, who's DHS's S&T Industry Liaison. Now, today we welcome you to this panel discussion. We're going to take your tech from idea to impact, and we're going to provide some ways for you all to use DHS's S&T's innovation programs for entrepreneurial innovation and funding opportunities. So before we introduce today's first speaker, I encourage you to drop your questions into the chat, and we will address as many as possible towards the end of today's webinar. And any questions that we don't get a chance to answer during the webinar, we'll make sure to get those answered for you after the webinar. Now, as you can see, we have a full agenda for you today, and we're going to have DHS's S&T overview that we're going to share with you, and then we're going to bring up our panelists who are going to share some information as well. And so I want to just go over a little bit our agenda for today, where we're going to talk about some of the collaboration and partnership opportunities. We're going to talk about the Homeland Security Startup Studio, the Silicon Valley Innovation Program, Small Business Innovation Research Program, the Long Range Broad Agency announcement, and then we're going to have that panel discussion I was telling you about, taking your tech from idea to impact. So with that, our first panelist is Megan Mahle, the Director of Industry Partnerships at DHS S&T. And her role in Industry Partnerships Division is to lead the formation and sustainment of internal and external partnerships across R&D communities. Now, these efforts, they enable joint R&D, and they result in stronger connections with the developer and user communities. Industry Partnerships is responsible for innovation mechanisms such as Small Business Innovation Research, Silicon Valley Innovation Program, Prize Authority, and broad agency announcements, and post-R&D activities associated with technology transfer and commercialization. Ms. Mahle has been with S&T since February 2008, serving in several positions, including as a Cybersecurity Division Business Operations Manager, as well as the CSD Program Manager for the Law Enforcement Support Portfolio, including the anonymous networks and currencies, cybersecurity forensics, and insider threat projects, and program support contractor for the Command, Control, and Interoperability Division. That's a mouthful. She holds a bachelor's degree from Mary Washington College and a master's degree from Catholic University. I'd like to introduce everyone to Director Megan Mahle. Megan, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for having us today and letting us provide some information about DHS Science and Technology. we're just going to sort of, is this tip of the iceberg and hopefully the start of many conversations. As you'll see, a big piece of what we are interested in is further engagement. So please keep that in mind as we're going through things. Consider this the first of a conversation, the start of a conversation. We certainly want to keep the dialogue going. So next slide, please. So the Science and Technology Directorate, if you are not familiar, which we have found that many people are not, we are the Department of Homeland Security's science advisor. We do the primary portion of the research and development for the department. When DHS was stood up, most of the R&D funding was put into the Science and Technology Directorate. So we work very closely with the DHS operational components like Secret Service, Customs and Border Protection, to address their requirements right now, the things they need right now and things in the future. We also run a number of laboratories. We work with academic institutions, we work with international partners, and we work with industry. So we know that research and development is not going to happen just within the government. And so we are looking to partner as broadly as possible. And that is part of the reason we are here today. Next slide, please. So the Office of Industry Partnerships, as you'll hear about throughout today's presentation, we have three main areas of interest. The first is outreach and engagement. So doing sessions like this, we want to meet new innovators. We want to bring new people to DHS so that people are aware of our mission space because it is very diverse. And we know that there is a lot going on in industry that the department is interested in. And we also know that people have not heard about us. And so we are trying to lower the bar to be able to come and work with us. We want to diversify our partnerships. We don't want the same companies coming to us all the time. We know there's great value in small businesses, in the startup community, in citizen innovators. So we want to harness what's going on in the commercial sector and partner to provide end users access to those technologies. And then after that, we have a number of innovation funding programs, and you'll hear about several of those today. So we provide funding to the private sector to partner with us in specific areas around certain missions. And then finally, we know that it is very important to make sure that the funding that we are putting out there and the technologies that we're developing are moved to the marketplace. We are not doing research just to do research. We also know that the Department of Homeland Security partners very broadly. We have a very broad end user community. We like to call it the Homeland Security Enterprise, which includes first responder community across the country. So there's a lot of marketability for the technologies we're developing. We have end users within the department, but we also have a broad commercial reach outside of the department as well. So we want to make sure that those technologies are being commercialized and being bought by the agencies and private sector entities that require them. Next slide. So as I mentioned, we have a number of innovation funding programs, and I know this is a bit of an eyeful chart here. But I will plug where you can find this information in just a bit. But the point here is that we run a number of programs that are not just a typical solicitation that we put on a government website and we expect a company to find, and we expect a company to understand, and we expect a company to respond to. We are targeting specific communities, we're targeting specific technology areas, and we're doing things differently than typical government solicitations. And we also have opportunities that are open to all types of businesses, large businesses, those internationally or in the US, as well as academia and national labs and other types of entities. So I won't get into all of this today. This is certainly something I'd recommend going back and looking at, but we will be going over several of these today. And encourage you to see where you fit in based on the innovator type we have on this slide. Next slide. And so where that previous slide came from is our new S&T partnership guide. This is just published at the end of September, and it is our one-stop document that we hope we can get out to our partners, including industry, to explain how to work with us and what we're interested in working on. So we have a number of priority research and development, testing and evaluation areas, and they are in broad buckets like border security, cybersecurity, chem bio. And we also have the information about the ways to work with us in the different programs. And the first one I am here to speak about today, you can go to the next slide, is our Homeland Security Startup Studio. So this is an interesting program that I want to make sure I provide some information about today, because we do have an open opportunity to get involved with this program. So the Startup Studio brings together entrepreneurs, mentors, and inventors to develop companies around federally funded technologies. So we are working with FedTech, which is a venture building company. And we're taking technologies that have been previously developed at national laboratories, academic institutions that have not moved out into the commercial market. And we are pairing entrepreneurs with those technologies, and they are building companies around them. They're learning the process for building companies through a phased program. It takes about 18 weeks to get through. And we are looking for a variety of people to get involved. To help get excitement about these DHS relevant technologies. Next slide. So we are about to start our third cohort of the Homeland Security Startup Studio, and we've had a lot of great success. We run a program about once a year. We start typically in February, and then we close the cohort in the June-July timeframe. We've had 7 companies formed so far. We have had, it's a pretty competitive program. We've had over 300 entrepreneurs apply to participate, and we've actually had just about 60 actually participate that we have seats for. We are very interested in finding diverse entrepreneurs and mentors to participate in our program. And we're pretty happy with the diversity that we've been able to develop so far, but that continues to be a metric for us going forward. And as a result, we've assessed over 950 technologies to down select. And the information on the right side of the slide is about 2 companies that have formed out of the technologies that they started and they were paired with. And the interesting thing about this program is, you know, people come in and they're paired with 2 or 3 other people, and they're all strangers, and they work together for 18 weeks. And then at the end, they formed a company. So it's a very interesting, very rigorous format, but we've seen a lot of success. Next slide. And so this, right now, our open opportunity here is that we are still recruiting entrepreneurs to participate in our next cohort. We're looking for a variety of people. We're looking for people who have business experience. We're looking for people who are interested in a career shift. We're looking for veterans who are looking for a new opportunity. If you have an interest, if you have the time, submit an application. We'd be interested in talking to you, and you can learn more about what we're doing. But it's not based on a particular technology area right now, because we don't publicize the technologies quite yet. After we get our entrepreneur applications, we'll do that. But it's a really exciting program. It is open right now for another month. So please consider it if you have any interest at all, and reach out if you have any questions. And I think with that is the end of my portion of this initial briefing. And I'm going to turn it over now to Melissa O to speak about the Silicon Valley Innovation Program.
Thanks, Megan. And thanks everyone for joining us today. My name is Melissa O. I'm the Managing Director for the Silicon Valley Innovation Program at DHS Science and Technology. And even though we have Silicon Valley in the name, it's only symbolic. We actually are interested in reaching out to startups and entrepreneurs around the world, actually, and have a track record of funding companies around the world, and in particular in the US. And so I just wanted to kind of give you a little snapshot of what SVIP is about, how DHS works with startups. So next slide, please. So we were founded in 2015, so about 6 years ago, I think, going on. And our main focus has been to reach out to the entrepreneur and startup community, identify where there are commercial technologies that are being developed by startups, and how perhaps those technologies could actually be shaped and adapted to meet DHS's needs. And so our goal is to really find those new technologies, strengthen national security, and reshape how government, entrepreneurs, and industry just work together to bring about those cutting-edge solutions. And really our goal is not to cause a company to pivot off of their commercial roadmap. We want companies to stay commercial. We want companies to be successful, to sell, but we also want you all to be able to sell to us. And in order to do so, we provide funding to shape the products and technologies that you're developing based on some pain points that we work on with our operational agencies within DHS. And so we've got two lines of business. The first is to cultivate relationships through forums like this, through interacting with the community and understanding what's out there, what's kind of bleeding edge, what's maybe in stealth mode, what do we need to know about, but also find ways to share what we're looking for, what the mission is. As Megan mentioned, we've got within DHS, there's missions from cybersecurity to aviation security to border security to human trafficking, combating human trafficking. And so there's many, many mission areas that we want to be able to make known to the community, because if they do that, they can see, hey, my technology might actually meet the needs of DHS. And so once we actually work out what those pain points are, we'll actually put out a topic to the community and allow companies and startups to actually apply to SBIP. And that's the Innovate piece, where we actually provide up to $2 million worth of funding over 4 tranches, up to 24 to 36 months of funding to basically leverage the commercial investments made in your company and to build a commercial product, but shape it. So opening the aperture so that it also bakes in DHS's requirements, so DHS can be a customer as well. And so our goal there is to really lower the barrier of entry for startups to working with DHS. We know that government contracting isn't always the easiest. And so we've kind of structured our program in a way that actually rapidly gets companies under contract, on average about 45 to 60 days. And really, it positions us to be able to address those emerging needs quickly, but also help bring those technologies into DHS more rapidly as well. Next slide, please. So essentially, some of the benefits to the startups that we're talking about, and generally speaking, we work with pre-A, pre-B type companies, early stage startups that are kind of developing a product, but not necessarily at the point of scaling necessarily. That we have found that that's actually the best place for us to position ourselves to shape a product. But our funding is equity free. We provide a large network of DHS customers to those companies, as well as iterating the product to help shape that. And in terms of mentorship, we've got a whole cohort of companies that have come through the program and can serve as mentors as well. Essentially, our goal is to provide that market validation as well. We've got a product, we've got a need, help us solve that problem. We also focus only on topics where we can publicly talk about it. Nothing secretive, no security clearance is needed. So we are able to do a press release to help you amplify your reach. And many of our companies have told us they've received follow-on funding, raised additional rounds of capital, used us as reference customers to raise that capital. And also, we're not interested in intellectual property. We want to see companies productize, commercialize. We just want to be able to buy that. So we're not interested in any of the core IP. Next slide, please. So just a little bit of info. See, as we said, we actually have funded companies all over the country and world, not just Silicon Valley. And we have put out 21 topics over the last 6 years and funded 71 startups. We've put out about $40 million worth of funding and actually have transitioned 11 technologies. And by transition, we mean those companies have commercialized their product with DHS requirements baked in. And that has allowed DHS to acquire those technologies. So we have an actual example of a sole source that has been done following successful completion of our prototyping process. So we're really excited to really kind of reach more communities to make sure that we bring in the talent into DHS to solve our pain points and problems. Next slide, please. Yeah, and to get a feel for what else about the program, there's our website. As Megan mentioned, there's the partnership guide, and feel free to send us an email if you want to be added to our mailing list. To get added to our mailing list or connect with us on LinkedIn, you'll get word of any of our new topics that we put out there. We're looking to do one in 2023, so be on the lookout for that. With that, I'll hand it over to our next speaker, Dusty Lang.
Thank you, Melissa. So in addition to being the director for the DHS SBIR program, I also manage the LBRAA. So I'm going to be speaking about both of those today. So, and I'll explain more what LBRAA stands for in terms of long range broad agency announcement when we get there. So next slide. The SBIR program was established in 1982. It's actually a congressionally mandated program for any federal agency that has more than $100 million in extramural funding, meaning it's going out to industry or outside the government. So DHS meets that requirement, and we have the SBIR program. It's a 3-phased program, and the intent is for us to be able to work with small businesses, which are defined for SBIR purposes as generally 500 employees or less, and the business must be centered in the United States, and all the work must be done in the United States. The first phase of the program is where we're looking at taking the challenges that we have and determining whether solutions have feasibility. So for every topic that we put out, and we'll be looking at some of those in just a second, we're going to award essentially an average of 3 per topic on the phase 1. And each company that gets awarded a phase 1 will have $150,000 and 5 months to be able to demonstrate the feasibility of their proposed idea. On average, we award about 17% of the submissions a phase 1. And we've had 755 of those over the course of the DHS SBIR program at DHS. Any of the companies that are awarded a phase 1 are then eligible to compete for a phase 2 at the completion of the phase 1. The phase 2 is where we're going to be going into development of a prototype. This is the opportunity to take what was demonstrated feasibility in the phase 1 and create a prototype that can demonstrate the actual capability that's being sought. We will generally go with 1, maybe 2 companies for the phase 2, and we generally will award about 46% of the phase 1 awards will receive a phase 2. When we get into phase 3, it's called commercialization. However, it's not always commercialization in that sense. We can do additional R&D or T&E because often in the phase 2 that ends the SBIR funding, we need further development. So I always call the phase 2 better explained as non-SBIR funding. The great news about the phase 3 for SBIR program is that it's legislatively mandated that we can go forward without further competition. So I refer to this as a directed award because we don't need to do things like a J&A and stuff like that. I've actually worked with our contracting folks to help facilitate the process. So if you receive a phase 1 award at any federal agency, you are able to receive a phase 3 award at any other federal agency without further competition via directed award. Next slide. So right now we have pre-solicitation out on the streets. It has 7 topics. These topics, as I said, this is a DHS program. So these topics will be throughout the buckets that Megan spoke about earlier. We'll be doing things for any of the components in any of the areas that have a capability gap. The ones that you're seeing on the screen now were generated via topic call internally. So we go out and we ask folks, what are you looking for? What kind of capabilities are you looking for that you haven't been able to determine how you will achieve that capability? We put these topics out, and then we're asking industry, small businesses who are very agile and innovative to give us your ideas on how to solve them. So we'll be giving you the parameters, the requirements, how it needs to be used, what the issues are that we've experienced in the past in addressing these challenges, and we're looking for you to come with your great ideas. The current pre-solicitation, it was released in mid-November. It's anticipated to close right before the release of the solicitation open, which would be mid-December. Right now, if you're reviewing the topics and you have questions that require further technical clarification, you have the ability to reach out directly to the subject matter experts for the topic. That opportunity will expire when the pre-solicitation closes. So I recommend you go out and look at those topics now if you think you might have some interest in them. And that way you'll have the opportunity to ask those questions directly and non-publicly. Once the pre-solicitation closes and the solicitation opens, there is an opportunity to submit questions. However, those questions will be collected and the answers will be posted so that everybody can see them on sam.gov, which is the place where the solicitation itself is. So it's, if you think your question might divulge your approach and you don't want to give up any of your secret sauce solution, then now's the time to get to add those questions. Next slide. So there's a couple resources I want to recommend that folks, if you're interested in the SBIR program, you have to reach out to. So the first one is the Deconstructing SBIR webinar series. This is a webinar series that's intended to help get through some of the challenging pieces of the program. We try to make everything as easy as possible, but when we're trying to make sure we're doing something with a fair and open competition, there's things we have to make sure we're following as well. So I usually do one during the pre-solicitation, and we do have one coming up next week on the 13th. So it recommends that you reach out to us if you haven't heard about it and are interested in joining us for that webinar. And then there's also our DHS S&T SBIR website. And then also we have a website or a page that shows all of our success stories. And there's been some pretty interesting ones through the SBIR program. You'll get to see how we've helped solve some problems across the DHS missions. Next slide. As promised, the Long Range Broad Agency Announcement, LBRAA. So the LBRAA is a BAA. For those that may or may not be familiar with the BAA, the idea is for BAAs is a lot like what the SBIR program is, which is we will go out and we will ask folks to tell us how they would provide solutions. Typical BAAs are structured often very much like the SBIR, where we have a particular gap and you're going to respond to it. The LBRAA is a little bit different in that it goes a little bit broader. We will pick sort of mission areas and we'll keep those open for a longer period of time. The initial submission doesn't have a specific due date, and I'll talk more about the process in the next slide. But just as a heads up, we have 17 open topics right now out there. And they're in the securing borders, preventing terrorism, managing incidences, securing aviation, securing cyberspace, and protecting terrorist attacks. Next slide. So the Chevron graphic that you see here is a little bit different than the one we had for the SBIR. This process is not the process of the technology development, and that's why I call it a three-step process. The idea here is we know we have these topics that are fairly broad and they're high level, and so we don't want to shove anybody into on either the industry side or the government side into a heavy lift in terms of what's required. So we start very light, and it's a 3-page white paper and a quad chart that is submitted. And if there's interest from the technical experts and the operational experts that would review the documentation, then you'll get an invitation to proceed to the second step, which is a virtual pitch. The virtual pitch is a really neat opportunity for you as the offerer to be able to submit to speak to your idea and through 12 slides and really be able to articulate what you want to do rather than just trying to get it on paper. There's also an opportunity for the government then to ask questions after the pitch. And this is an opportunity for them to get further clarification. They cannot provide guidance as do this or do that instead, but there's really, they're going to ask questions that are the places where they have either questions or concerns or there's been challenges in the past. So there's still an opportunity for you to gain some insight from the questions that they ask. And I always recommend folks pay a really good attention to those questions. From there, if there's interest from the government side, you'll be recommended to proceed to the written proposal. And the idea here is we're going through a couple steps, and we want to make sure before we have that investment, both on the government and on the industry side of creating a really substantial and full written proposal document that can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, we have a better idea of whether we're really going to be able to pursue this. So once you're at the written proposal idea stage, we are usually have a good idea that we are interested in proceeding, but it's not a guarantee. So there will be an evaluation of the written proposal similar to other processes and programs, and the determination will be made as to whether this is something that will work. What I recommend is, at the first submission, we're going to ask you for a ROM on the period of performance and the dollar amounts, understanding that as you get refinement of what you want to do, either through the virtual pitch or other inputs, that may change, but really give a lot of thought to that in the first piece, because the government side is going to look at that, and they'll either look at that and say, okay, that's either too much, we can't afford it, and may say that's just not an area where we can put that amount of funding, or it may be like, oh, this is great, this is something that we can do. What you don't want to do is be at a place where at the written proposal it's dramatically different, and that changes the scope or the view from the government side. So, and you'll see it has a goal of 120 days. I will say we don't always meet that 120 days of going through this process, but I do have somebody on my team that is very diligent about trying to help make sure the process goes as smoothly as possible. And we do come close often. So it's looking to make sure that this three-step process isn't a prolonged experience. It's adding value, not just time. All right, next slide. So here's some resources. I do want to say that the LBRAA, as seen on Megan's slide earlier, is one of the programs that's open to a large number of different areas. So academia, industry, international, small business, large business, FFRDCs. So it's really something that anybody can explore. We have a Insights Outreach episode from the Insight episode on LBRAA, so you can watch that and find out more about the mechanics and logistics of the process and the program. And then I also have an LBRAA Today webinar series, and this is intended to, as you know, as we said, the topics are fairly broad. So it's an opportunity for somebody savvy in this area on the government side to be able to provide some more context and information on really what our challenges are in this space today, hence the title LBRAA Today. So I think, next slide is how to contact the SBIR or LBRAA office. So those are, I promise there's somebody that checks those regularly, daily, more than once daily. So we're always monitoring those emails. If you have questions, please submit them there and we will get back to you. And please join our mailing list. We send out, as Melissa indicated, we'll be sending out information like the pre-solicitation is open now. We'll be doing open solicitation hopefully mid-December, and we'll send out information through all kinds of ways. So keep us in mind. That is my last slide. So I believe I will be introducing Dee Parker, who is one of the fabulous folks that's part of the OIP team and a great person to know to contact. Welcome, Dee.
Thank you so much, Dusty. I am super excited to be here today, and I just want to thank everyone for this invitation to speak. So throughout my quick little presentation, I will answer the following questions for you. What does an industry liaison do? What industry outreach services do I provide? What kind of products are available to you and how to get in contact with me? So what does an industry liaison do? So I really like to get a little creative when it comes to trying to get you to understand my roles and responsibilities over here. So I'm going to compare it to something, since it's the holiday season, which everyone loves, shopping. So most of us go online to do shopping. When you go first to that site, there is a broad spectrum of products that pop up depending on what you're searching for. It will then tailor it down depending on what best fits your needs. So that's my role in a nutshell. You tell me how you want to engage with S&T and DHS, and I will tailor it to your needs. So first, I serve as a connection point for stakeholders, such as yourselves, and engage the innovative community to let them know about opportunities and how to partner with S&T. I receive inquiries daily directly to our innovation inbox, and it's a way for industry to connect with us over here so that I can answer any questions that you have. I also work with DHS components, federal agencies, and other external stakeholders. I will then filter those inquiries to the appropriate person or persons so that they can review your company's technology and capabilities to determine the next steps and if it's a great fit for DHS and S&T. And then we can establish those one-on-one meetings. Also, I coordinate, plan, and support industry-related events such as conferences and industry engagement sessions and webinars, as you see here. So the second question, how can you work with S&T and how do you get started? Okay, raise your hand. You should have been listening to Megan. The best way is to learn more about innovation and funding opportunities and collaboration opportunities and research needs is our wonderful new partnership guide. So this booklet is a comprehensive guide for the innovation community to better understand what S&T is looking for and how to approach us. In the guide, you'll find more information on how S&T supports the full life cycle of innovation from engaging with innovators and other partners to develop and adapting solutions. Secondly, S&T's 5 key mission focus areas are detailed descriptions of priority research, development, tests, and evaluation needs, and how you can connect directly with S&T and given your organization's type and interest. Now, I know that burning question that everybody wants to know about, how do you keep in contact with us? So next slide. So I encourage you, anyone that's interested, we have a listserv. So we want you guys to sign up to our listserv. We'll send you information and we will not bog down your emails, but it's a great way for you to understand and learn about what's going over here at S&T. So we can add you to our listserv. And it will also give you a way about all of those new opportunities that Melissa and Dusty was talking about, as well as Megan. It'll be right at the touch of your fingers. And that's why we have our social media connection here on this slide. That's the best way to get the latest news on what's going on over here in S&T and at DHS. So if you have any questions outside of what you've learned today, please do not hesitate to contact me right there at sandt.innovation@hq.dhs.gov. We are a team of 3, but we are truly mighty. And we will get back with you within 24 to 48 hours. So if you have any questions, it's monitored daily. I'm here to assist. And back over to you, Philip. Thanks for this opportunity.
Wow, thank you so much, Dee. And I want to thank Megan, Melissa, and Dusty as well for sharing all of that great information. Now, we'd like to open the floor to questions to address your live questions that have come in. And in case you missed the welcome at the beginning of today's webinar, feel free to drop any of your burning questions into the Q&A feature. We will address those or address as many as possible while we can. So what I'd like to do is for the panel discussion, I want to have the 3 of you to start talking about how people can get started with working with the government. What are some of the resources available, et cetera? And then while the audience is connecting with R&D, we have a couple of questions that we want to propose to you all and just want to make sure that you all get a chance to answer them. Now, my first question here, I'm going to go to Megan, if that's okay. Why should industry think about the government as a business partner? What is the value to work with DHS, or more specifically, what is the value to work with DHS Science and Technology?
No, it's a great question. I think We are a huge organization. DHS is massive, and we have so many different mission areas. I think that presents a lot of challenges when, small businesses, when companies who have no awareness of the government are attempting to work with DHS, but it also presents huge amount of opportunities. I mean, I think people see DHS at the airports. You see the checkpoints, you see those type of missions, but there's a whole number of missions that aren't quite as obvious, that have a lot of opportunities. So our partnership guide goes through those. And I think the value with S&T is that we know that a lot of great things are going on in industry. And as Melissa and Dusty both indicated, a lot of our programs are not looking to take the intellectual property of industry. We want to see companies continue down commercial paths. And we know that DHS is only one buyer, but we bring a lot of engagement with our end users. So people can really get a feel for the missions that we have, and how their solutions can impact Homeland Security. So I think we bring a lot of opportunity, and we bring the funding and the awareness of our mission space, which is of great value to companies who are considering working with us.
Thank you for that response. And I know that Dusty and Melissa, you both have programs that are specifically designed for small businesses and startups. So why do you have specific set-asides in programs for this classification of business?
Go ahead, go first.
Go ahead.
No,
All
no.
right. So actually, ours is not necessarily a set-aside for SVIP. It's actually more just an acknowledgement and recognition that we need to take some of our resources and make sure that we're actually accessing innovation and entrepreneurs. And so that's why we set up SVIP in the way we did, is that in the past, there was some challenges trying to have startups work with DHS because their VCs were telling them, don't work with the government, they're too slow. And so we set it up so that they could work with us by staying commercial, but adapting their products to working with us. So it's really just more of a recognition, acknowledgement that there's a lot of innovation within the small business community, and finding a better way to get to them and to find and lower that barrier for them to come to us.
Yeah, I agree absolutely with everything Melissa said. I mean, small businesses are notably more agile and innovative. The number of patents filed per employees percentage-wise is higher. I think there's also and this is certainly something that DHS should care about, is the economic benefit of helping small businesses be able to thrive. It's certainly a huge part of our ability to have a sound economy. And the other piece is, because of that agility and that innovation, that's the heart of security, is if we aren't able to stay a step ahead, then we aren't able to provide that security, that technological advantage.
Thank you both for those responses. And I'd like to go just a little bit deeper into this conversation. I'd like to give the people some examples of what you all consider successes to just illustrate the kinds of products and end goal companies that people could work towards. So, this could be a Cinderella story for a small business, an entrepreneur, a startup, or technology that you put on the market for a company that participated in one of your programs. Now, can you elaborate on some of these projects?
If I could start with just reiterating, plugging again, the Homeland Security Startup Studio. I mean, these are people who just in their free time in the evenings decided to join us on a journey towards entrepreneurship. And they were matched with people and a technology that they had no awareness of. And they came out on the other end and they were ready to start a company. I mean, that is something, it's incredible what we're churning out there. And we're taking people's skills, we're taking people, through this process of developing a company. And I think that is just a really big success for us that you can't really quantify until someone gets through the program, and we don't know what we're going to end up with because it's so based on a lot of matchmaking and then the commitment of these teams. But those are kind of great examples of things that are some of it is the great skill the team has in doing these partnerships, but some of it is just the magic that happens over that 18-week period. And then just another quick example, we run prize competitions for the department. And those we're really looking, we put out challenges that we're really looking for individuals. I mean, these are fairly small, typically fairly small amounts of money that we're giving out. You know, it might be a $25,000 prize, a $50,000 prize. We're looking for people, individuals who have interesting solutions that we are not going to get via a typical contract that we put out. So again, that's, you know, another way of providing impact to someone who just happened to see our opportunity. And, you know, again, maybe in their free time, put together an idea that really made an impact on our end users.
I appreciate that. We do have a number of solopreneurs that are affiliated with USBC. So hopefully they will take advantage of those types of opportunities. Dusty, Melissa, I wonder if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, so for me, you know, because we're focused on trying to bring that innovation from startups, we know that, you know, the key to their success is business and selling product, right? And so I've focused our program so that we're in sort of a near term to deployment. Being an R&D organization, we still need to actually shape products. So our funding provides the shaping of that product, right? But then the big deal is for our operational agencies to actually acquire the technology and deploy it, right? I'm not in the business of actually deploying that technology. So, I mean, it's so exciting to see some of the prototyping. I kind of mentioned it during my presentation, but one of our companies out of Cambridge, you know, they are building machine learning entity resolution solutions, you know, and we've been able to actually have our Customs and Border Protection Agency, their procurement shop actually acquired it sole source because they went through our competitive process. They didn't then have to go through another competition. They were able to sole source buy that technology, and now it's deployed to help reduce duplication of contracts that they were seeing that they were actually buying multiple of the same contracts from the same vendor, not realizing that they weren't using taxpayer dollars as efficiently. So now they're much more efficient in their buying process.
All right, so there are sole source opportunities for folks that have those ideas, have those products, and that is a possibility out there. So I'm glad to hear that. Dusty, I wonder if you could round us out with this question.
Absolutely, and I love the posing of the question of, you know, what are some successes, because as Melissa alluded to, you know, what is success can vary, and a Cinderella story is great, and we have ones like Illuma Labs that was able to take something very quickly, implement it, get it out to banks and for voice recognition, for authentication. Then we have some that we've partnered with other agencies to help develop. So the Cinderella story may be, you know, quicker or longer, but I think the other thing to consider is when we talk about success, it's not always the traditional look. You know, I have a thing that I used to have on a little meme or whatever it is I used to have on my computer at work that said, you know, it's R&D, and if it works every time, you're not really doing R&D. So the beauty of what we're doing is we award 3 phase 1s on average per topic, and any of those that don't go forward, we still have a success in that we've learned something that doesn't necessarily work for this application. But we have leveraged SBIRs that have been initiated out of the federal agencies that didn't work for their application, but that can work for ours. So anytime we're doing science and technology, we are learning something, and that's a success. So I aside from all the traditional looking successes that we've had, that's something that S&T, I think, should claim as success.
I got to get a copy of that meme that you have. This next question, one of the questions that one of the members have asked is does the Department of Homeland Security, Science and Technology own the rights to the R&D that industry may work on, or even if someone sends you information on their technology and capabilities, can you use that? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so I can start there. I think you know, when someone submits a proposal to a business opportunity, you know, typically they're marked as company proprietary or, you know, business confidential. So those types of things, when we get information from a company and that is marked, I mean, obviously we're held to protecting that information. So certainly we do not, you know, walk away and do anything with that, with those types of submissions. And then, as we've mentioned a couple of times, I think it's very important to us that our opportunities and our programs support commercialization and support industry. in collaborating with us. So while our intellectual property structure varies across programs, we do have a number, and like the ones we've talked about today, where we're really supporting the companies, and the intellectual property and the data rights stay with the companies, as opposed to government taking rights and removing the intellectual property from the companies. That's very rare that we would ever enter into an agreement where that would happen.
Okay, so there's very small risk that someone would lose ownership of their technology then.
And any solicitation that we put out that would have IP rights, or the government would be seeking something, that would be explicit upfront, right? You would know about it going into it before you submitted an application for something like that.
All right, perfect.
I don't know if Melissa has anything. If you do, Melissa, you can go next, but I had something to add as well.
Yeah, so just to add to what Megan mentioned, for us, we're very particular about making sure that what we are looking for in terms of deliverables are technical reports. So as long as, for us, you're not delivering hardware or software, we won't add. The only thing that we have rights in, and it's really just a license in it for the period of the contract period, is what you deliver. And so usually all we need are technical reports. For the purposes of demonstrating the technology, that may be part of your milestone, but that's not actually something you're delivering to the government, because at the end of the day, we want to see our operational agents buy from the commercial marketplace, not hold up in any intellectual property associated with a prototype, if that's helpful. And of course, for us, any intellectual property that you bring to the project, obviously for us, we're shaping an existing product. So any background IP is yours. You own that already, right? Any IP that we co-create, you still own that. We just get a license of that for the period of the contract, so that we can actually evaluate it, understand how it works, that sort of thing. So our goals is not to own any of the IP. We want to see companies be successful and commercialized. That's for SVIP. So sorry, over to you, Dusty.
Thank you, Melissa. So SBIR is actually fairly similar. It's actually codified in law. So there are SBIR data rights that is put into every contract. And there's some other protections that are in place in the program to help to bolster that. So we cannot negotiate contingent on the award of a contract, the SBIR data rights. The only way that SBIR data rights can be negotiated is after an award of a phase 3 or other contract. So there's even things in place to make sure that there can't be that negotiation. And then additionally, the policy directive calls out for us to use the technologies developed by the SBIR awardees to the greatest extent feasible. And that's another way to make sure that we're not just trying to find ways around partnering with these small businesses. And to what Melissa said, to expand on it just a little bit in terms of what you come in with, always make sure that you're asserting your data rights at the beginning of a contract, because you have that opportunity. And so if it's something developed prior to a contract, you have the ability to do that always. And large businesses will, so small businesses should as well.
Thank you all for providing that clarity around that, because now you think about it, if there were folks that were sort of holding on to their technology, this should give them some comfort that they can pursue this opportunity or these types of opportunities without that large risk of losing their IP. So thank you all for adding that. I do have a couple other questions. I'm thinking about some of our audience members that want to establish a startup or a small business. How can they get started? Are there resources through the SBA or other places where people can get started?
Absolutely. The SBA has a large number of resources. They have things that can help you plan how you're going to start a business. Are you going to start a new one? Are you going to purchase or acquire one that exists? How to launch it? Make sure you have, what does the location look like? What is the planning of the costs look like? How to manage. So a lot of times folks will, all of a sudden there's like, oh, we have to do payroll and we have to manage finances. We have to have an accounting system, and then also grow. A lot of times folks don't understand the dangers of growing a business outside of their core competency sort of areas. There's also disaster resilience funding. But I'd also like to talk about, and I know that Megan can probably talk about this as well, DHS has, in addition to the Startup Studio, for like SBIR, we've partnered with NSF. So if you get an award through the SBIR program at DHS, offer you the opportunity to participate in the I-Corps program, which is really about discovering gaps, really discovering what your customers' needs are. We also have the commercialization assistance marketplace, which can help with some of the aspects of a business. You're eligible to apply for TABA, such that if you get an award, an SBIR award, then you can use technical and business assistance funding to help with some of those things like establishing an accounting system or licensing or patenting. So those are opportunities within SBA and within DHS.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that additional information. Now, Melissa, I do have a quick question for you. Now, I know you work with innovators from around the world. Now, what advice can you, as someone who engages directly with these startups, give to another company who is also starting out or thinking about establishing their startup?
Just through my interactions with the startups that I've seen be successful, the best that I've seen in terms of advice is solve a problem. Don't just try and build a technology, but solve a problem. If you solve someone's problem, they will go to you and all their friends will go to you. And that's I know it's really simple and it's not actually, it's easier said than done, but focus on the problem set and focus on the customer and help them solve their problem.
That's the old build a better mousetrap, right? And the world will show up to your door. All right, I do have a couple more questions here, and I'm taking a look here at the chat as well. Now, if there are businesses out there that want to share their ideas and propose their technologies, but there isn't an open topic call, are there some other resources that they should look to?
I can take that one. I think we try to have, at least some open topic call at any given point, but obviously there are times that we don't. I would suggest if you're looking for opportunities outside of what S&T might have, grants.gov is a good place to look. That is opportunities across the federal government that are open. DHS also has an unsolicited proposal process. So there's information on our website about that. And then there's also Dee Parker. I think the information she provided, if we don't have an open topic call, but you might have a technology that might be relevant to one of our program offices that might be considering something in the future. I mean, good to get a connection there so they have an awareness as things move forward.
And in addition to that, I'm not the only industry liaison here at DHS. So I have all resources and information of those other industry liaisons throughout the DHS components. So whether it's TSA, CISA, FEMA, the whole track. So I can get you in contact with those industry liaisons and they can definitely help and assist and give you additional information on their components.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much for that. And I know out of respect for your time, I want to make sure that we finish on time, but is there anything else that you all would like to leave the audience with?
I think I'd just, say, not to be a broken record, but, I think we often find people come to us and they have lots of questions. We try to put out as much information as possible to make it easier. So take a little bit of time if you are interested in what we've presented here today. Take a look at the partnership guide, think about where you fit, and then come with some targeted questions, because that will make sure that we're, being respectful of your time. We know that working with the government is a burden on small businesses, on companies. We're trying to reduce that. So if you have awareness of what we're trying to accomplish and we can streamline the conversation and answer the questions you have about the programs, I think that sets us up for a more fruitful conversation.
Thank you so much for that. And we do have a number of questions that came through the chat. We're going to package those up and send those over to you all to review. And from what I understand, you'll be able to answer some of those and we'll get those back to our participants.
Absolutely.
Can I make a plug that will help both Melissa and I's programs?
Yes, please.
If you go to oip.dhs.gov, you'll be able to access both the or all of the LBRAA, the SVIP, and the SBIR program, and you can create an account so you're poised to be able to respond to any of the things that we have out looking for proposals. So recommend looking into that now.
Awesome. Then I think what we'll do, we'll make sure to package up all of those links and we'll send those to our participants as well. All right. Well, I want to thank everyone for attending Level Up for Growth, a panel discussion taking your tech from idea to impact. Now, this was possible through our work with Wells Fargo Advisors and the SBA Community Navigator Pilot Program, funded in part through a grant with the U.S. Small Business Administration. A tremendous thank you to our panelists, Megan Mahle, the Department of Homeland Security's Science and Technology Office of Industry Partnerships Director, Melissa O, the DHS S&T Silicon Valley Innovation Program Managing Director, Dusty Lane, the DHS Small Business Innovation Research Outreach Manager, and Dee Parker, the DHS S&T Industry Liaison. Also as well, our Community Navigator Chambers for advocating for Black businesses, and to you, our viewers, for sharing in on this discussion. USBC introduced By Black, the only Black certification program with a business directory, providing businesses that certify access to private and public procurement opportunities, highlights, and other benefits. This online program can help prepare you for the contracting space as a documents preparation guide. So make sure that you certify today by visiting usblackchambers.org/certification. We also invite you to give us your feedback on today's session. So we will have up this QR code here shortly where you can type in your information. And you can also, we'll provide you with a link as well at the end in an email so that you can provide us with the feedback that you need, that you'd like us to see make changes on. Now, we also invite you to join us for some upcoming New Year events. And you can go and visit usblackchambers.org/webinars to register for topics such as our live webinar, which is taking place today, December 8th at 5 p.m. Eastern. The Buy Black US platform for Black-owned businesses will be sharing some information that I think you will find very helpful. Also, we have the Career Mavericks, who will be delivering a webinar on Public Speaking 101 for Entrepreneurial Success on December 13th at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. And then, as always, you can catch me on Fridays with Phil next Friday, December 16th at 12 noon, where I will be talking with a team of tech professionals from the Buy Black platform. Also follow us on social media at usblackchambers.org. And if today's forum prompted additional questions and interest, please feel free to contact us at programs@usblackchambers.org. Now, before we go, I want to thank Warren, Richard, and Tiffany Mays for their outstanding work and support here at USBC. I also want to thank Claire Martin and Connie Benish for their outstanding work in supporting this from the DHS. Now, one more thing, I want to send a special shout out to my sister, Jessica Dunn-Gilbo, who's a senior special agent with Homeland Security Investigations here in Houston Division. She served 32 years and 3 days of federal service, and we are so proud of the work that she has done. She is retiring today. So we love you, Jess, and we're proud of the work that you did. Thank you for your service. So thank you all for joining us today, and we want to wish you all a happy holidays. On behalf of our president, Ron Busby, our board, and our staff, we thank you.